Chinese Communist Party poses the greatest threat to mankind currently and will for decades to come. Now, there is a geopolitical analyst, Peter Zeihan, who tells us that China will fold, that it will break apart and cannot possibly survive for 10 years. I want to give you 5 reasons why he is wrong. He's a smart guy, but on this, he's missed the boat, because I'm going to tell you exactly what China's plan is and how they're going to overcome these huge, grave problems they face now. Oh, yeah, China has huge, grave problems, as right now most nations that are developed on this world do. But China has a plan. It may have some speed bumps, but they have a plan and they're working it. And there's reasons why. If things keep going the way they will, China will prevail. And a lot of it is our fault. Unfortunately, we've been too blind, my friends, and it's getting us. So the whole purpose of this isn't to scare you. Don't be scared, be prepared. It's to help you realize what's up against us so you can get ready for yourselves and your families so that you can get yourself positioned as best as you can. And maybe try to scream in the ears of our politicians and wake them up and wake up our fellow people in our society, because a lot of them think this is just hunky-dory. They will until they're caught up in it, and then they're going to squeal. So, my friends, here we are, the 5 key reasons why China is going to get through these tough times. Well, first, let me say that what Peter Zeihan is predicting is because of the demographics of China. The demographics of China are kind of upside down. You know, demographics should be a pyramid with the young people on the bottom and all the older people at the top, and all these young people are workers supporting a developing economy, producing consumer goods, supporting those few people at the top. But due to the one-child policy and also the new thing in the industrial world where children are no longer enablers of the farm, they're no longer good helping hands. Instead, they're expensive pieces of furniture, to quote Peter Zeihan, which is a good point. The problem is that even given this upside down pyramid that China now has, of the older people up top are sort of more kind of straight, and not enough young people at the bottom support them, China's got a way to work around it. So here we are, 5 key reasons they will accomplish this. So reason number 1, AI and automation. And of course, they're currently the unemployed, even though they've got a straight thing. You would think that they're, as Peter Zeihan is saying, oh, they've got such unemployment, but where they're at now, their labor rates are going to be high, and it's going to price them out of the market. And well, their labor rates are higher, my friends, especially for the wage guys. But so many of them went to college, they're going to have to retrain and go out and do the trades. There's actually a lot of available Chinese workers right now. A lot of them are the youth are unemployed, but primarily AI and the attendant automation is what's going to get China through a lot of the things that Peter Zeihan talks about. And Peter Zeihan will say, well, they're not going to have the money to invest. It's a very expensive proposition to invest in automation. It costs a lot of money, and that well of money is dried up in China. Well, I'm going to give you, especially in my reason number 2, how China's going to pay for that. Oh, yeah, they'll pay for it easily. They'll finance it just like we have financed so many things. I'm going to give that in my reason number 2. Reason number 1 is really going to, if it don't disturb you, I don't know what's going on here. This whole thing is coming at us. But AI and automation. Now, you know, we're coming up with these personal robots, and China's working on them too, just like several companies here in the United States, to include Tesla, these humanoid robots that are deemed to one day be able to do regular human chores. Oh, they're not there yet, but with AI and the advances that are continuing, yeah, they could get there. So they're automating factories, and they will soon have the AI will automate a lot of these so-called clerical jobs, you know, the stuff all those kids train for, and they can't find jobs for it already. They're unemployed, but there's always going to be need for the trades, for somebody to fix things, to rewire houses and do plumbing, and things that robots probably will not be suitable for the foreseeable future, regardless of what some people think. Okay, so regardless, for those that don't like my speaking. So in any event, guys, this AI and automation is going to be a bridge gap for having too many elderly and not enough young people. I might even add longevity research may also goose the thing a little bit more. It gives you more old people, but they may be more productive. So it might be the way they keep their population going. But that's another, I didn't mention that because that's kind of hypothetical. Reason number 4, the Belts and Road Colonization Initiative and domination of Russia. Oh, yeah. China's Belt and Roads program is really reaching out through the world, bringing a lot of countries into it and pulling them into the sphere of China. This program also is kind of a colonization, old style Americanization program. You got to realize China puts out loans to other countries, tells them we'll build infrastructure in your country, provide, and you'll have all this great, wonderful infrastructure, but you got to pay us back for it. But China does the work. Yeah, they use Chinese companies. So that, it's kind of a stinky term. They go in and use Chinese companies to build stuff in your country. You don't get the jobs for it, and yet you owe for it. And it turns out quite often this infrastructure is not economically productive enough for you to pay for it, which is more often than not. So you wind up being beholden to China. You wind up having to pay them back, and you can't. So you have to give big concessions to China for your territory, for your sovereignty. And, there's probably all along the way and through this, and also with the bribes that are intended with this, that China's going out and giving to all these countries around the world to buy their leaders, often against the will of the population. The situation is that China is buying a lot of the world. They're buying favors in the world. They're getting into labor markets. They're getting resource markets. They're going to have be able to offshore labor, kind of like the United States did to China, to other countries, but they'll be more dominant. They won't be as lackadaisy about it as we are, because they're a very authoritarian state. And the deals they're making with these countries are in China's favor, big time. So all the roads and the belts and roads lead to Beijing, straight to Xi Jinping, as long as he's alive and in power. So that's the deal with this. And also Russia, it turns out that Peter Zeihan talks about how reliant China is on foreign trade, and they are. And their weak point right now, if we get into a war, would be to cut off the Malacca Strait, where so much of their trade goes through, and China would be in severe world of hurt. However, China is making inroads through their belts and roads to have other ways to get their goods, and also especially their domination of Russia. Russia is rich in natural resources, poor in people because they got a demographics problem also, but they are rich in resources, which also makes them wide open to China down the road. One day China will probably take Russia, but right now Russia's in a world of hurts thanks to they got into it with Ukraine and may get into NATO. They're suddenly in great need of China. China don't need Russia at the same level that Russia needs China. And China has the industry. China has the economy that Russia does not. Russia's got nukes. Oh, yeah. So they can have, that's one reason Russia's not totally likely to be completely conquered anytime soon unless they get wiped out by a bug. But China seems a lot working on bugs, it seems. But guys, these are things to look for in changing how the assets of the world are rearranged. And furthermore, through this Belts and Roads initiative and the buyout of a lot of countries, island countries, China, and all these countries going into the BRICS, China is getting a huge, huge domination in the world politics. They're going to have more and more votes in the UN. They get their way in the United Nations. And even though they don't abide by the United Nations treaties and laws, like the UNCLOS Law of the Sea Treaty, which they violated flagrantly in the South China Sea, but they know the rest of us will. So they will use that to their advantage. It's for them to, it's for us to use and them to abuse. That's the way they do business. Just like, they steal intellectual property from everybody. So China, it will have this Belts and Roads bringing the goodies home. That's what they're setting up. Now, item number 3 is the state strength and lack of internal resistance within China. Now, state strength comes in 2 flavors. What we in the rest of the world see the most is their external strength, their military, their Coast Guard. They have the world's biggest Navy right now. China is building ships way faster than the United States could dream of it. And that most of their ships currently are for serving the immediate interest around China. And for their own self-defense, that makes sense and it's cheaper to do. And it also fits well with their taking of Taiwan, South China Sea, and assets directly around them, giving that first tier of control. But now they're starting to build more and more deep water, what we call blue water Navy ships. Some of those just went up to China, into the Aleutian Islands with the Russian Navy, which Russia has a good number of blue water ships. And also, as I might remind you, along with North Korea, are vassal states apparently of China to some degree. I think Russia is not going to like this arrangement. We messed up big time here in the United States. We should have cut peace with Russia years ago and told them, don't worry about Ukraine. We're not going to do anything. Let's make peace with you and let's focus together on China, because Russia's biggest long-term enemy is China. Yeah, the same with the rest of the world when they realize what trap they're going to get caught up in with all the obligations they're going to have to China. It doesn't look pretty. I remember the Chinese, what do they love? Han Chinese that happen to be members, loyal contributing members of the CCP, as long as they don't cross, the emperor, Xi Jinping. So guys, this is pretty serious. And you got to realize, just look at, people go, oh, China's fine, great. You don't have to worry about it. They're the good people. Everything's fine. Oh, the people are great. I love Chinese people. I absolutely do. I've dated some. I've turned over my dear HAL 5 organization to a Chinese guy, although he was from Taiwan. I've dated from mainland China. Nice lady, really nice lady. She had a good friend I was acquainted with too. Got no issues with the people. It's the same everywhere. It's the governments that play us against each other. So please don't misunderstand and misconstrue where I'm coming from. I do a lot of business with Chinese people. I got no issue with that. But the government, the CCP, that's what we're talking about here, the party that's ruling. So, and that goes back to this idea of state strength and lack of internal resistance, because state strength is not just what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside. You got to realize that China has an internal police force that's bigger than their external military, because they fear their own people more than they fear the exterior forces. More than they fear us, they fear their own people. That's what you get with communism, any totalitarian system. And show me a communist nation that's not totalitarian. That system don't work. So it only survives under a totalitarian system. Knock, 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 young people. Wake up. You don't know what you're buying into when you buy into that philosophy that you've been brainwashed in schools is so great and wonderful. No, it's not so great and wonderful. That's why everybody's trying to get out of those countries. And that's why they're trying to get into other countries. You don't see people trying to break in to communist countries. They're always trying to flee. There's good reasons for that. Good reasons. Yeah, and you'll always try to come up with some excuse for why Venezuela's this way and North Korea's that way and all these countries the way they are. No, it's always the same thing. It's always the same thing. But anyway, my friends, so the internal strength of the state is immeasurable compared to it's greater than any state we've ever seen, because now they got social credit systems. Now they got they're coming out with their own CBDC. Oh yeah, Russia's doing that too, by the way. So if you think Russia's going to be paradigm of freedom, yeah, it looks like the mark. And it seems like Russia, they rolled it out before we did. So I don't know, guys. A lot of these countries, they're apparently vying just to see who's at the head of the beasts, the global red dragon. Oh, red dragon, what is that? Anyway, state strength, lack of internal resistance is part of this, because even before they had networks of cameras watching everybody, they do today. Even before they had social credit systems, even before their state internal system was as big as it is, when the first emperor of the CCP, Mao Zedong, was taking this great leap forward, all these great and wonderful programs was going to fix everything and make China so great and wonderful, it caused the death of tens of millions of Chinese. They did not overthrow him. They did not of course, Beijing hadn't flooded yet. Oh yeah, now Beijing just flooded. So that's part of the mythology of the people. Once Beijing floods, that's heaven telling you that this dynasty's days are no longer valid. I don't know. Maybe that's why Beijing hides that so. but still, their state strength is huge. And the people have no history of really everything. Protest, yeah, they've had some protests, and I think some of them really interesting, like that blank sheet protest, because they got hit for anything they say. So they just held up blank sheets of paper. That was very ingenious. The people in China do want freedom. They just don't understand the key fundamental. There's still more of them than there are the CCP. Oh, CCP is huge. Yeah, they get a lot of people in that party just to try to maintain their control. But there's still more citizens than there are of them. If the people could really wake up there and do something about a change of the system that runs their lives, the Chinese people would be awesome. it would it would be world change. We'd all just look back and go, wow, yay. All the stuff they'd be coming up with. Holy smoke. They're smart people, extremely smart, good people, hard workers. Uh, I admire them as a people, absolutely. But they got a system on them. They got a system that's rough to deal with. And unfortunately, if you think that gives you some superiority complex, give it up. Because if we don't really wake up, it's coming here. It's coming here in a hurry. So that's why I got to point this stuff out. But this gets a little worse, guys. So the number two reason that China is not going to fail in the next 10 years, and the reason that they will pay off a lot of the debts they're suffering for, recover from that crazy debacle where they invested so much money building ghost cities and stupid real estate projects and tofu buildings, the buildings crumble. How they will pay for their automation. It's the same way the United States has paid for a huge social welfare system here in America. China will have a really strong global world reserve currency through what they're setting up with the BRICS. Oh, yeah. Now, of course, it may not be the only global reserve currency, but it's going to be a lot stronger than it is right now. Right now, the one is surfer. But given what they're trying to come up with, this BRICS currency, I'm expecting, and I know they are, all plans of mice and men tend to hit a rock in the end. But right now, they're trying to set this up, and it's looking really good for them. The BRICS World Reserve currency is going to give them a lot of economic clout, just like it did here in the United States. They can do deficit spending if they have to. They can do the investments to make that Belt and Road system work, to buy in more global leaders, to put things more on their side of the slate, to pay for the automation, maybe in the personal robots and attendants to look after all those old people that the young people just won't be able to bear on their own. That and maybe the subjugations of some people, which China is known to do. Look at the Uyghurs, who the U.S. State Department says that China's committing genocide on. Look what China's done to Tibet. Look what China's done to the Inner Mongolians. That's what I said. If you're not Han Chinese in the CCP, you got an issue. Yeah, if you're Han Chinese and you're not CCP, they ain't going to like you either. And you got to be loyal, contributing to the wishes of the Emperor Xi Jinping to really make it work in terms of your membership of the CCP. So it's all a state internal, and currently that state has become a cult of personality. Now that is a system that is fraught with all kind of potential for major error and breakup, like the Great Leap backwards that Mao Zedong come up with, because people die. I'll agree with Peter Zeihan on this. People can't afford to take a bad message to the emperor. That means the emperor don't know nothing except what's in his head. And good Lord forbid, nobody would really want to be in his head. But that's what happens in the cult of personality and a dictatorship. Things can get ugly, but it doesn't mean he's going to lose power. Mao Zedong didn't lose power. And the final thing about that stuff is, even if their currency went in economy, you got to remember, look at North Korea. All they got to do is try to make somebody else look bad, rally everybody behind them, and tell them, hey, the cult of personality leader is going to save you. The North Koreans haven't overthrown the dynasty that's been ruling them in their entire communist history. Kim Jong-un being the latest pinnacle of that. No, they've not overthrown any of that. They live in sheer poverty. Sheer poverty. They're like a Spartan society. China could go there. That's another thing that Peter Zeihan misses. China could go into sheer poverty and still build a huge. Look at North Korea. Missiles, space launches, nuclear power plant, nuclear weapons. Oh yeah, got a huge military. Huge military. That's all North Korea is. It's a military state. It's a Spartan society, North Korean style, or North Korean characteristics. So we might see a Spartan society with Chinese characteristics, just like their so-called communism with Chinese characteristics, where they mimic the trappings of capitalism in order to juice their system economically so they could develop an economy and factories to build warships and tanks and missiles and battle balloons and God knows what else. So the strength of the world reserve currency is going to go in their favor as our currency goes down. It's backed by gold. That's why I tell you guys, you need to go check out my link, Defy the Grid, below. That's where you can get gold backs. Yeah, I'm about to get to the number one reason, guys, and that's going to knock your socks off. But go take care of yourself and your family. You know, if you don't like the gold back, you can go in and buy actual gold bullion and coins. And Defy the Grid has a policy that if you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll meet it or beat it. Nobody else has that kind of deal. So check it out, Defy the Grid, and use my coupon code Green Gregs, and you'll get 1% off. Green Gregs. Their margins are thin, especially on these cold backs. So do that. That's how they keep the prices good. Thin margins. But go to Defy the Grid and get some. What I like about these is they are portable. They're spendable. If you got a gold bar, you got to shave some of it off to buy a loaf of bread. Then you got to weigh it, and somebody's got a bunch of dust and chips. They might lose some. It gets messy trying to make small transactions with gold as a bar or as bullion or gold coins. They're so expensive. But this you can buy for $3 and some change, and you could barter it with somebody for $4. It's 1/1000th of a troy ounce of gold. And I like that. It's an artwork. And I'm expecting gold's going to double in price. I don't know. It might not, but with the BRICS thing coming out, being gold back, I'm expecting demand for the gold to go up. I'm expecting the value of the dollar to drop down. So we're going to be in pickle as they move into the world reserve currency. We're going to see things we haven't seen in this country, such as, I mean, if nothing else happens, because I'm expecting we'll see inflation and depressionary forces at the same time. It'd be like a Great Depression, which, you know, suddenly you got no money. Money's worth a lot, but now we're going to have money going to be worth nothing anyway. So we're going to have both kind of forces going on in this country in terms of net outward effects. So, yeah, we might have, actually, our money supply is shrinking right now, but it's not shrinking enough to make up for what's going to happen for losing our status of global world reserve currency. And we might be a reserve currency. We might be able to maintain it amongst ourselves and certain key allies. But a lot of our key allies are bolting on us. And see, one of the things that drives China and enables all this is two factors: greed and fear. People fear China because they're so powerful, especially the neighbors around there. But there's also the greed, because China is such a huge partner. Everybody wants to trade with China if they can. China can also make stuff cheap, or they'll, through their belts and the roads, get access to cheap stuff in the future. And they, China's a huge market, so everybody wants to get in on that. Everybody's got these wedges of that. But what happens is they lose. They lose in the end because China steals their intellectual property, and the balance sheets for trade balance always goes in China's favor so far. So that is where China stands to gain big time. And then there's the final, the number one reason is to knock off the king of the hill. Subjugation or defeat of the United States of America. Guys, I need to do another entire video on this. Through the use of computer viruses and biological viruses alone, for any one of those two, China could bring the United States of America to its knees, just like what happened with a little cough that we had going around a couple of years ago. Yeah, we had all kind of shutdowns, lockdowns, our economy hit the brakes, and we put out a bunch of helicopter money to make people happy. I don't know, with our credit rating going to beep, with the dollar's status losing the reserve currency, and so much of the world going beep. Can we do that again? Because our spending went, yeah, spending skyrocketed. Our debt skyrocketed. The interest on our debt as a result of that is skyrocketed, that and the interest rates. So we got some problems. How do you do that again? Especially if it's a larger scale, a batter bug of some type. And there are batter bugs out there. Oh, yeah. But, say look at the biolab that was discovered in Reedy, California, just near Fresno. How many of those are there? And even if they don't plan to release the rats and whatever else they got in there as vectors to carry the bad stuff around, these aren't level 4 biosecurity facilities. Even our level 4 biosecurity facilities accidentally ship things they shouldn't and release things. Oh, yeah, this was any level security system with highly infectious agents, most of which they did not even name. What's there? How many of these labs are there? There might be several in California alone. We just found one. Who else has these labs? We don't know, but we did find one. Quite accidentally. How many more are there? You tell me. You can't, because we don't know. So before you write it off and aggregate, it's nothing. If that stuff gets loose, no. So we don't know what agents they have. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is the computer viruses. What we know now is that China has hacked with Trojan viruses, not from one or two. They got like 3 different big enterprises, Volt Typhoon being just one of them. Oh, yeah. Big enterprises in China that's putting malware in everything we got practically. Yeah, we have found it in our key sensitive military control systems. It is in our utilities. It's in all the critical systems, United States, water, sewage, communications, transportation, power generation, power grid. Oh, yeah, they got viruses everywhere. All kind of commercial things, our pipelines. Oh, yeah, remember Colonial Pipeline? Yeah, just one pipeline really did a lot of disruption. They could cause cascading failures in those large transformers and bring them down. They could cause them to actually burn up where they can't be replaced for a long time. So, guys, we're facing a huge threat. Oh, yeah, sleeper cells here in America, too. Sleeper cells. Oh, yeah, fentanyl. Oh, my God. They're pumping fentanyl in our country like crazy. They're in our schools and our media, influencing the minds of the population. They keep putting out the same mantra. It's like hypnotic, getting us to go along. So we'll bow down to them. A lot of our countries buying into this because they're being hypnotically programmed, just like our computers. So there's mental viruses, just like there's computer viruses. These are programmed, and there's physical, biological viruses out there. So, and if you don't think we're under attack from, just look at the fentanyl. We lost the key ingredients for fentanyl all come from China. They know it. The state knows what they send out. We lost 107,000 Americans last year because we're losing about 100,000 a year. This is not pretty. There's no way to sugarcoat that, but yet we ignore it. We sweep it under the rug. Oh, it's nothing. That's not nothing. That's twice as many people as we lost in the entire Vietnam War, which lasted, about 14 years? Oh, yeah. You think that's nothing? Every year. But we in the media don't talk about it. Why? Because they're bought out. Apparently. Seems to be the case. Tell me why I'm wrong. Just tell me. Explain it to me. Or I get accused of putting out misinformation by the media itself or whoever. Just explain it to me, okay? I'm just asking questions. I'm just saying it kind of looks that way. You tell me. Be real careful what I say. We got such freedom of speech in this country these days. Yeah, right. So subjugation or defeat of the United States, just bringing our dollar down from not being as high in the pecking order of world reserve currencies is going to subjugate us. Then when you look at what's happened in our country through drugs, oh yeah, China's century of humiliation was caused by drugs. Oh yeah. So they learned that lesson, and now they're paying it back to us. China was humiliated for a century. It brought them to their knees as a country. So they like that. They're in our school systems, they're in our companies, they are in our computers, and all our infrastructure. We've never, ever, ever faced an adversary with that kind of power in our lifetimes, in our nation's history, in the history of mankind. We haven't seen this coming from another human organization. So we're in for a rough time, guys, if we don't wake up and start doing something fast. And then there's this whole specter of warfare. Well, they may never have to fire a bullet. We may not be able to fire back. I hear so many of you go, well, if they do that, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. Oh, yeah? Hey, send the naval fleet over to, huh? What? Huh? All right, send out, hey, General Milley, send out a EAM2. Nothing works, sir. It's all hacked. Now, how many, we know of 3 organizations that's got malware. How many more are there? This is an intensive hacking event that they've been pulling off on us. Intensive. And then if that fails and suddenly the signals get out, they got sleeper cells in here to take things out. They're buying property next to a lot of our critical bases. They got a huge intel base, communications base they built in Cuba with some troops. And then all these sleeper cells here. Oh, yeah. Sleeper cells can take out the power grid. You start losing power, our nation's on its knees. We're going to lose most of our people in a matter of 9 months. Most, like 9 out of 10, will be gone. This country will be hit like nothing you could imagine. This is worse than the effects that we would imagine from a nuclear war. So if you think it's okay, you need to think. If you don't agree with me, give me some details. Don't just say something, it's nothing. Give me some details. Explain it. I want to see why. See if you can convince me otherwise. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I'd like for somebody to convince me otherwise. I truly would. But what we're facing is unprecedented. We've allowed it to creep up on us. Oh, we paid for it. That's a scary thing. We made China, thank you, excuse me. Thank you, Bill Clinton. When you made China most favored nation status, oh yeah, and Henry Kissinger way back, in the 70s, and Nixon for bringing them in to the fold. Well, then we're looking for somebody to balance against Russia, the Soviet Union. But now, when we made them most favored trading status, and we gave them that and started buying all that cheap junk for them, and Walmart started forcing U.S. factories to move over there. Oh yeah. Then we paid for the development of the People's Liberation Army. The cheap junk you bought in the local department stores. Cheap junk is used to build their military, their society. We paid for it. It's time to wake up. I always tell you guys to look where you spend your dollar. Look where you spend this thing. Spend it locally. I tell you that all the time. Local artisans. Of course, now it will be your CBDC, which they will have strings on. So that's why I love these. Anyway, my friends, don't be scared. Be prepared. Wake up. Wake up your friends, your neighbors. This is a critical message I'm putting in here. Please share. Hit the share button below. Hit the share button. Send this out in social media. Send it out to friends. Send it as far and wide as you can. People need to understand that America faces trouble. They need to understand that China is going to be our biggest challenge ever. Not Russia. Russia's got more nukes, but China's the challenge. China is the challenge. Big time. So, guys, the best thing we can do about it is share this. Get it out. And then we can go to my Freedom Restoration Foundation and start wringing the ears on all of our politickians, mini ticks, bloodsuckers. Yeah, we can have effect on that. We can. We can turn this country in our favor. I believe we will if we wake up and get to it. Just look at, well, I don't know, it depends on how fast China moves. But guys, that's one reason they may move fast. And that's why you got to prep. But prep and pray and hope for a better day. And just remember, there's good people in every country, every land, of every race, color, creed, ethnicity, religion, in every shire, hamlet, village, and city. It's a lot of these powers that play us against each other that have got us where we are today. So, my friends, with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching. Share this message. If you're not subscribed, bang the notification bell and click all. And I'm going to say with that, thank you again, and Greg out.